It's the Black Real Estate Dialogue. Tune in.
Thank you so much for coming to another episode of the Black Real Estate Dialogue podcast. Very excited about this episode today. Here with me, I have Scottie Smith out of Dallas. Scottie, thank you so much for joining the show.
Absolutely, man. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Happy to be here. I like your platform.
Definitely.
So it makes it easy to say yes to folks like you.
I appreciate that. So give the folks just a little bit about who you are, Scottie, and what you do.
Yeah. So my name is Scottie Smith II, not to be confused with that old guy called my dad. But my background is in real estate investment, real estate brokerage, real estate development. I've been in this industry since I became an adult, starting when I was 18. Took my first real estate class when I got to college at University of North Texas, and pretty much fell in love with the idea of using real estate to generate wealth. And specifically because my professor, when we came into the room, the very first class, he told us, hey, look, if you don't own a house by the end of this semester, or by the end of this class, I didn't teach you anything and you didn't learn anything. And so that was a big task. And my first question, I was a freshman. Most of these people were upperclassmen. I'm like, hey, is that ask, going to be what makes us pass the class? I'm going to tell you right now, I'm probably not going to make that. I'm 18. If I go home right now, I still got a curfew. And you're telling me that by the end of this semester, I should own a property? I don't know, man. And so just with that, in that short time, my world opened up. Coming from a rather large family, I have 12 siblings. We didn't see this type of stuff or that type of stuff. And, especially with young folks buying real estate. But anyway, I didn't end up buying a property at the end of that semester, but I did catch it the next semester. I was 19 years old, bought my first property, used some scholarship money that I won. Took it. Instead of buying clothes and shoes and all that, I bought my first property, rented it to some friends, kind of did the house hacking before it was called house hacking. And really just it grew from there. And I bought 2 more properties. I did a major flip and I did a wholesale deal. All of this before I was 21, man. And so I just been, really progressing since then. The market took a turn though, as everybody experienced. And while most of the real estate agents and brokers were leaving the business, I actually became a licensed broker. And so the reason I did that is because I felt like there was a lot of people who looked like me and you, who didn't quite understand the concept of using real estate to generate and build wealth for their families and their legacies. And so ultimately what I did was I took what I learned as a real estate investor and what I was doing to apply it to the real estate brokerage side and teaching agents how to teach people. And, I wrote a book and, from there, it just kind of kept going up. And, over the past 15 years, I've been, wrapped into this whole ecosystem of real estate, from the real estate brokerage side, the development side, the investment side, wholesale. So, my company, my family of companies, we touched on just about every type of real estate transaction that you can possibly think of, with the exception of, anything that has to do with air rights. But we progressively increased our offerings, increased what we do. The past probably 5 or 6 years, I've really been focusing on the development of affordable housing, specifically in and around South Dallas. And then, as you know, one of my more interesting projects, I'd say, is the retreat at Lake Noire. And so that's a small hospitality deal. So we're focused on development for the most part. But like I said, I've touched on every part of the real estate industry. And through my companies and my family of companies, we pretty much have a rather large offering of our services.
Love it. Man, remind me, what class was that where the professors told you you should have a home by the end of the semester?
It was a real estate class.
Class.
It was my very first kind of introduction to real estate and real estate investment that I signed up for. I originally went to college to become an accountant. And so I knew I was going to be, a Big Four accountant, work for one of the large accounting firms and make partner one day. Tried that for a couple of years, didn't quite work in my favor. And, the reality was after I saw, how much time as an auditor we were spending inside offices that were the size of closets, auditing large companies, and really not impacting anybody one way or another, I kind of was like, yo, this isn't for me. I remember this one company that I was working on. I was doing some audit work, and I was auditing bonus compensation. This was in the middle of the recession. And we were cutting bonus checks for over $1 million, or auditing bonus checks for over $1 million. I'm like, dog, while the economy is going to hell in a handbasket, these folks are making out, they're making great money doing what they love to do. And so I just kind of, realized, hey, this work isn't for me. Let me follow my passion and my purpose and really help people to generate wealth using real estate as that vehicle. But yeah.
Definitely. So talk to us a bit more about the retreat at Lake Noire. I believe it's 20 tiny home cabins on 15 acres, Oakwood, Texas. Is that right?
That's correct. So let me before I jump into that. So like I said, for the most part of the greater part of the past 6 or 7 years, I've really been focusing in on affordable housing within the city of Dallas and within a specific community called South Dallas near Fair Park. And with that, that's a lot of work. It's a lot of headaches dealing with cities, public-private partnerships. All of that stuff that comes along with that can cause somebody to almost lose their mind. And so this year, I said to myself, I wanted to focus on projects that were way more fun. And this is how the retreat at Lake Noire was birthed. Specifically around the time that I had COVID, I wanted to get away. I wanted to be kind of tucked away in a nice spot where I could just be one with nature. And so I found this, I had this property that I was already working on, and I just put it together. I ran the numbers, looked at it, saw what it looked like, and said, okay, we're going to make this happen. So ultimately what I came up with is the retreat at Lake Noire. It's 20 luxury tiny cabins situated around a man-made lake on this 15-acre piece of land, about an hour and a half south of Dallas, 2 hours north of Houston, and about 2 to 2.5 hours away from pretty much every major city in the state. And so this concept was created to give people the opportunity to get away, to retreat, to chill and stop and pause and get away from the busyness of just everyday life, where they can, go out there and fish, hop on a little boat, do some boating, some kayaking, enjoy the walking trails, and really just sit with nature and get a refresh. And that's what I needed in the moment. And I was like, yo, I'm certain if I need it, there's other people that also need it. And so I started doing some digging and realized that it wasn't a new concept. There was a lot of people, a lot of different similar retreats or getaways or tiny cabin type deals around Texas. But what made me very interested in pursuing this full force was that none of them were Black owned, no Black ownership, but also every one of them was booked up for months on end. So they told me it was a market. It was confirmation. And so that's where we kind of turned the lights on. And I said, look, guys, we're going to go full force with this thing. Let's make it happen. I don't care how we do it. Let's make it happen. If we got to bring in some people on that, and a part of that, and I think it was, hey, if we got to bring in some people on it, that got some of my team members interested, like, hey, why don't we do a crowdfund? I said, now we're talking. And so it's really a development where it creates this peace of mind. We're tapping into the mental health space, allowing for people to get away, retreat from the busyness of life. But we're also tapping into what my original mission was when I first started in real estate, which was to help people create wealth and generate wealth using real estate as that vehicle. And so we did this crowdfund for it. And we got about 104 investors who invested into this deal. And we're doing a groundbreaking, kind of this ceremonial groundbreaking next week. And it's just an awesome deal. It's an awesome feeling to know that 104 people, most of which I did not know, invested in this project. And I know every single day people are calling me or texting me or messaging me, hey, is it too late to invest? And it's it's been a while. So I'm really excited. Where we are with it right now is we're constructing right now. We've done most of the site work. This is the first time in my entire career that I've actually built a lake and dug a lake. And so that's pretty amazing to experience and see. And so,
Love it. So you're sick and you want to retreat, and this idea comes to you. Mm-hmm. So from there, it seems like you kind of rallied the troops. But I would love to hear more about, Texas obviously has a lot of land, right, all over. So how did you decide that you wanted to do this project in Oakwood?
You know what? It was really kind of serendipitous. I'll tell you this. I hunt. Being from Texas, we hunt, we fish, outdoor stuff. My hunting trip last year, due to COVID and all that stuff, it didn't happen in the way that we normally make it happen. I got cut out the trip because they were like, hey, a limited amount of people can come. I got cut out, right? I was a low man on the totem pole. And so I immediately started thinking about, hey, look, I don't never want this to happen again. I'm going to go find my own hunting land. So I kind of passively started looking at stuff. And, every so often, like, I could probably buy that. It doesn't work. So Facebook, a gentleman posted something. And I said, this is interesting. So, hey, man, look, I'll offer you this price for the land. He said, nah, I'm trying to market it a little longer. Okay, cool. No problem. No sweat. It was very passive. And then, a few months later, I saw that he reposted it. Hey, I'll offer you that same price. No, I'm cool. Contract fell through. I'm gonna try to get my price. Okay, cool. 6 months later, this gentleman hits me back and was like, hey, are you still interested in paying this price for this land? And I was like, nah, I offer you $15,000 less. We can close in a few weeks. So initially I bought this land, to be my hunting land. And, got it for, a pretty good steal. And I just said, you know what, I could be doing more with it because it's such a peaceful location. People would love to come there. And so that's how I got it. That's how I, I negotiated the deal, and we've been moving since then.
Love it. So you secure the land, and, how you're essentially like building a community. So what does that planning and process look like? Because I've seen the progress and seen, things going up step by step, but what does that look like, I guess, at a basic level to just try to put all the pieces together?
Yeah, so that's very interesting. So this particular project is completely different than what you would typically do in like the city limits. This is technically considered a rural location. It's in a county called Freestone County. The largest city next to it is a city called Fairfield, which is a pretty decent sized little community. But it's literally 2 minutes outside of the city limits. And because it's 2 minutes outside the city limits, what's required inside the city isn't required there. And so your permits and all that other stuff, that the process that you would typically have to go through with your engineers and all that, we didn't have to go through that process on this property. But in a typical situation, we would have to have, engineered plans stamped and approved by not just our engineer, but also the city, planning and zoning, all that stuff. You'd have to get everything stamped by Encore and your plumbers and your, because we got septic out there. We'd have to have all that stuff situated. And so for us, in this case, it it just required us to sit and plan through what it took to make this come to life. And a part of that is, hey, we still need all of these things, but we can do what's called kind of this whole build to suit situation. So as we're planning, we can then go build instead of doing everything up front, spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on the front end and hoping to pull it off on the back end. As we're doing this stuff, we're like, okay, we need this. We're good to go. It matches. Our engineers with us most of the way. The only part that's a little different is we're doing our Encore, which is our electric hookup, pretty much in the middle of this project, which typically you want to do on the front end, but because of where we are and how we're doing it, we can do that. And so this process, like I said, it's a little bit different than your standard inner city development, just because it's rural. You don't have any permits, and so it's that's been pretty fun, I'd say.
Definitely. And how did you approach like putting a team together? Because I mean, I can imagine just like the people, the players you need in place to bring this vision to life. So can you talk a bit more about just like how you approached finding other people on the team? Who are the people on the team who are supporting you in bringing this to pass?
Yeah, so with any real estate development, your team is going to be essential. Everything from your your boots on the ground to your finance and your capital stack. And so, lucky for me, most of my career, I've been able to build and generate relationships with people, with architects, engineers, construction folks, and site crews. But this particular site created just a tad bit of a interesting dynamic because it was rural. And when you start trying to bring contractors from the city to a destination that's an hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes away from you, it becomes problematic and pricey. And so I made it a point to find people that were local. And what I mean by people, I meant like my site crew, people who were doing the what's called the horizontal development. So I found some folks local. And, for about a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks, I was meeting new people out there, different crews. What can you tell me about this property? What can you tell me about the process? And finally settled on a group that was out of this small city about 15 minutes east of our land. And so they've been extremely helpful. But as far as like our what we call our development team, our architects and engineers, those are just people who I've worked with in the past or folks that I've known and have been waiting to do a project with from the past. So building those relationships and holding on to those relationships is key. And I know a lot of times we want to figure out what we can do with somebody right now. But no, you gotta make certain that you have those relationships, you nurture those relationships, and consistently say, hey, how can we work together in the future? Or hey, I want to work with you in the future. And then make it happen. And that's what ended up happening for me on this.
Love it. What have been some of the challenges that you've experienced along the way, just in getting things going and getting these homes built?
Man, so a bit of transparency. Our crowdfund on this deal, our original goal was about $500,000. We came, I reduced that goal to 350, and then we exceeded that. So that was kind of the first challenge. Like, how can we, one, show investors this, right? Because most of our investors are going to be coming from out of town. How can we show them? Then, came up with the investor tour. So I chartered buses for like 6 or 7 weekends, loaded up investors, drove them out there, walked them around, showed them the vision. And then, one of the big questions was, hey, this is a $2 million project. You're raising this amount. What's going on? Where's the gap coming from? And that gap was coming from lenders. We had, back early part of the year, when rates were decent, lenders were like, yes, we'll do this deal. We're ready to close, had term sheets ready to go, appraisals ready to go. And then our fund closed in April. And I don't know if you remember, but in May, end of May, beginning of June, rates did something weird. They increased.
Mm.
Fed kind of took that adjustment and scared everybody. And so what ended up happening is those banks that were saying, hey, we'll do this deal, they kind of backed out and said, hey, we're not doing new construction for sale. We're only going, new construction, multifamily, rental properties, and they can't be in areas with populations under this. And I'm like, damn, well, our population is this, it's not a multifamily and it's new construction. And so that's become problematic. The lenders just kind of tightened up a little bit. And it's like, so, and it's really because, hey, their feeling is, hey, if you build something in this high interest rate environment and can't sell it all, we're taking a loss, which I understand. That risk increases when you're in rural destinations. But I keep working through it, telling people and telling these lenders that I've been speaking with that, hey, this concept isn't a new concept. You can go 30 minutes that way, 45 minutes that way, 2 hours that way, and see that people are still leasing properties for the weekend at 2x what I'm charging for hours. And, and so finally, originally we had 4 banks that told us yes back in January. 3 of them backed up. 1 of them had astronomical rates that we just weren't interested in. And then, after that, when the Feds hit their rate hike a couple times, we heard no at least 12 times. We've heard no at least 12 times on that. And so now we finally found a lender who's out of California, ironically enough, who says, hey, I love the deal. Rate's going to be a little higher than what you expect. But, and so we're in the appraisal process, working through closing up this construction loan so we can finish it out.
Definitely. And I love that you mentioned that, especially like the 12 no's, not some people might have just threw the towel in and said, you know what? Well, we tried. I guess this is not the right thing for us, and just walked away. And I mean, if you did that, you probably wouldn't be talking today, and you wouldn't be able to see the light at the end of the tunnel so you could finish this project. So I really like that you were able to persist.
Are you looking for a community of like-minded individuals and access to experts in real estate?
Yeah.
Are you interested in real estate but need more support and guidance?
You know who it is?
The Black Real Estate Dialogue presents the Real Estate Investing Community. No matter how much or how little real estate experience you have, we've created a community for you because your perspective is important. All right, tell me, where's the #1 place where you can do Q&A with experienced guest speakers 2 times per month? How about unlimited access to past guest speakers' recordings? What about a private Slack channel to engage in daily discussion with everybody in the community to share resources and support each other? Head on over to blackrealestatedialogue.com. That's blackrealestatedialogue.com. It's the real estate investing community presented by the Black Real Estate Dialogue. Come join us today.
And that's key, with real estate development, man. You'll hear no a lot, simply because you have to be a master at telling the story of a project that doesn't exist, right? And so if you're not able to tell the story and the person on the other end of the phone isn't able to see you or feel where you're coming from with this, or even just look at it from a numbers perspective and understand, you'll get those no's, and they'll, if you're weak, you'll fold. But you got to maintain a little bit of strength in this whole thing, because at the end of the day, all you need is that one yes, right? There's not only do you need that one yes, but when you prove to that person that they made the right decision by making the bet on you, you're really just opening up the faucet of capital. And so that's my goal with this. And, for us, no isn't even a possibility on this. Not getting it done isn't a possibility. I got 104 investors who are excited, just as excited as I am about getting this thing done. So no, that ain't gonna work. So we're gonna have to make it happen. So
definitely, I love it. And let's get more into the story. You mentioned that a couple of times. So what is the vision for Lake Noire once everything is completed, and what's the story that's being told right now about it?
Yeah, so like I said, the retreat at Lake Noire, it really was created so people can just disconnect from just the busyness of what's going on around us, man. We're so connected to everything. If you go into any kind of store or restaurant, we're connected. We're so connected to every single thing through social media, the Internet of Things. It's everywhere. We're connected. And because of it, there's so much fatigue that comes along with it. There's mental anguish that comes along with it. There's a ton of, negative effects of too much consumption of information and too much consumption of screen time. And so what the goal is for people to just literally just stop and pause and take a beat and enjoy really the natural resource that was provided to us here on this earth, which is the land. And, if we're able to give somebody kind of this, I guess, luxury experience in nature, will consistently have people coming back. And so I was reading, I forget the name of the book, but I was reading this book and it was talking about anxiety. And it was like, hey, one of the things that you should do every day is you should just stop and get out in nature, go outside for, even if it's just, hey, let me just stand there and enjoy what's going on. And it helps you kind of mentally, it gives you moments to just stop and pause and reflect. And so offering, these luxury tiny cabins in the woods gives people who may not be, an outdoorsy person or a hunter or a camper even. It gives them that kind of glamping feel, but still being able to disconnect. And so one of the things that, I love about the retreat at Lake Noire is the reception is terrible. You know what I mean? It's terrible reception. And the area that we get the most reception is back by the lake. It's like inside, dang near the middle of the lake. You know what I mean? It's where you get the best reception. And so unless you're going to rent a boat and get out there to try to get you 5 bars, you're going to be off the grid for a little bit. And so we'll have some Wi-Fi and some stuff like that. But, that's not really what it's about. We'll have little safes for people to just, store their stuff, store their phones, barbecue pits and all that stuff on the outside, little games, cards that you can, just say, hey, look, these are some ideas to just be able to reflect and get out and understand, or get back one with yourself, get back grounded and rooted, so.
Love it. Want to shift into affordable housing, something that I know you're involved in and that you mentioned in Dallas. And a lot of people think affordable housing is not worthwhile to invest in, not worthwhile to build. So can you talk about your approach to affordable housing and some of the things you've been able to do in that area?
Yeah, so that's an interesting thing. And I want to take a quick moment to give a little bit of education on what affordable housing is, right? U.S. HUD has stated pretty much what affordable housing is, if somebody is spending, 30% or less of their income on housing, right? And so there's different dynamics, there's different debates about what they consider affordable housing, but there's classifications around affordable housing. So you have what's called workforce housing, which is for people who make between 80 and 120% of the area median income. So you got workforce housing, you got low income housing. Typically that's for people who are between 60 and 80% of the area median income. And then you have very low income. That is typically your permanent supportive housing, your homelessness, that type of stuff, and creating housing for that demographic of people. My target and where I focus is at the 80 to 120% of AMI. That's your workforce, what I consider and what I call the missing middle. People who go to work every single day, your teachers, your firefighters, you know what I mean? Your EMTs, your police officers, your people who are, first, second, or third year clerical administrators or something like that. Those people who work every single day, and for whatever reason, maybe it be the demographic of the market or where the neighborhood that they're living in, they may not be able to afford to purchase. And so what we've done and what I've done is I've created an underwriting model that allows for me to create a decent capital stack for people and for us to do the development, but also to make it worthwhile for ourselves and our investors to do this type of work. Sometimes that comes in the form of partnership with the municipalities that we're working in. That may come with discounting or adding a second lien or something like that on the property so that the person could actually purchase the home. So it looks different depending on the scenario, but affordable housing, not only does it make the community better? Does it help people? Does it help people grow and build wealth and create legacy? But it is a very, it can be very profitable if done right.
Definitely. And can you explain for those who may not know what a capital stack is?
Yeah, so that's just the best way to understand what that is there are different sources of capital for any one deal. So that can come into the form of your equity, your debt, your mezzanine debt, grants, tax credits, things of that nature. So there's a plethora of ways to put a deal together with different sources of capital. And so each source of capital typically requires some type of payback or a different type of payback. But if you're able to massage that underwriting model in your financials or your pro forma, as people more commonly call it, you can really make some things happen.
Definitely. I appreciate the breakdown on affordable housing and just the explanation of the different types. For the affordable housing that you've been involved in, has it been developing homes and selling them to lower income folks primarily, or is it partly like building stuff or purchasing stuff to rent to low income folks too?
Yeah, that's actually how it started. And so it started back when about 7-8 years ago. Our real estate brokerage firm, our average sales price was under $300,000. At that point, it was under $250,000. And so that was a specific group of people. Most of those folks were having some type of down payment assistance, getting some type of grant money, maybe some city support or help. But we had you guys from California coming to check, buying up all the properties, very similar to what's going on now, but they were buying up all the properties, offering cash, $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 more than what they were listed for. And so, closing in 7 days. And so our clients were actually missing out on really great properties because, folks from outside of Texas came and were just snatching up stuff. So my thought was, hey, man, we got to either go and get more listings and control the listings, or we create the inventory. I chose the latter. And so we had to go and find land, and I had to go in and see what was going on around Dallas. And I found South Dallas, or I stumbled upon South Dallas. And it's been dynamic ever since. And so the very first property I sold, I built and sold. I sold that for $165. This was 6 years ago. Sold it for $165 to a person that was that met that demographic. They were at 80% of the area median income. That property today is worth about $275, almost $285,000. So we've increased this family's net worth by over $100,000. And so in South Dallas, over the past 6 or 7 years, I've done that about 30 times. And so everything that we've done up until this point has been purchase the land, build the property, sell it to a family. And, it's been rewarding to see a lot of these people that we sell homes to don't have to come to the table with a whole bunch of money. They typically walk into the home with equity because we're not building crap. Our properties are architecturally dope. They look good. The interiors are great. Most of that stuff doesn't cost much more than it does. And what we also do is we focus on the long-term affordability of the home. And so we focus on energy efficiency, low flow toilets, low flow water faucets, where somebody will have a $50 light bill versus to $150 light bill, where their water bill might be $25 instead of $75. So that the housing cost is where I've been really focusing on and creating long-term affordability, not just, hey, I'm gonna sell you this cheap house. Because when you start thinking about it, if it's a very cheap house and cheaply constructed, stuff starts falling apart. Do you think somebody on limited income is going to fix that? No. So then you perpetuate that same cycle of poverty in a specific neighborhood, which that's a whole different story for another day. We don't want to do that, but it's there's a lot of moving parts to it, and I absolutely love it.
Love it. And I like the fact that, I mean, obviously you're making money, you're able to sell these houses, but you're also, I want to call this out, you're also thinking about the long-term affordability, right? And just what it's going to look like in the future. And, for certain families, like, how it is, like that $100, $200 a month that's saved, that can go a long way for people while still being able to afford your house.
Absolutely. It definitely can, man. It's, we had a rather large family, and I started thinking about what an additional $200 a month could have done for, my mom and my pops. Like that goes, that money goes a long way.
Definitely. What's the demographic of South Dallas?
Right now, it is about 65% Black, about 30% Hispanic, and then the remainder is kind of that other. Highest growing demographic is our Hispanic population. At one point, this was a thriving neighborhood, just like many other African American neighborhoods around the country. Then they got funny. They built a freeway that split the neighborhood in half. And they closed down a couple factories. And then, that's what happened.
Tale of American City.
Right, exactly. Introduced drugs and, all that stuff into the inner city. And, there you have it.
Definitely. I think it's great that, you could have picked anywhere, right? You could have decided to do these developments and affordable housing in any part of Dallas. And I think it's great that you decided to do it in an area that, has been historically Black, lower income, it seems, and giving people opportunities to purchase homes. You had mentioned before that you kind of stumbled upon the area. Were you considering other areas, or you kind of fell into South Dallas and you're like, you know what, I think this is a good, perfect spot for what I'm trying to do?
Man, I'm from Houston originally. I think I forgot to say that. Houston, Texas.
Okay.
And so, spent a lot of time in Denton, where I went to school, which is just 45 minutes north of Dallas. And then I moved downtown. And so, when I got into the city, I knew about Dallas, but I didn't know all the intricate details about every single neighborhood. And so I was actually driving, and I was supposed to turn left. My office is on Commerce, and the cross street is Malcolm X. And so in downtown. And so I was supposed to turn left on Malcolm X, and I turned right on Malcolm X and went over a bridge and ended up at the intersection of Malcolm X and Martin Luther King, which in the entire nation, there's only 5 intersections where Malcolm and Martin actually intersect.
Wow.
And so I was intrigued by that, right? I'm like, I know this is a Black neighborhood. So let me drive around a little bit. So I'm driving around and I'm just seeing all the vacancies. I'm seeing land that just have piles of trash. I'm noticing, infrastructure issues. I noticed, and I'm trying to get on my cell phone and service is bad. Like, so all the telltale signs of what I call disinvestment, right? The city had major you drive through the parks and it's like, dang, it's a park. Who maintains this park? Which was actually ironic because in South Dallas, there is the largest city-owned property called Fair Park. This is where we have the State Fair of Texas. And so it's huge, it's massive. So
Wow.
it's there, but when you go outside the walls of Fair Park, it's, it was kind of forgotten. And so I looked around and I'm like, okay, how much is land here? Land was extremely cheap. I was buying properties for $1,000, $2,000, $5,000,
Wow.
$500. I'm like, oh yeah. So what I started doing is I started telling people about it. Like, hey, yo, I know y'all probably know about this already, but I stumbled upon this little area. Lots are cheap. Grab it. We can all be neighbors. Nobody listened. Nobody listened. But I get calls every day. Hey, man, let me know if you find a good deal on land over there. I said, listen, if you had listened to me 7 years ago, we'd own all of this. But property now gonna cost you $65,000, $70,000.
Wow.
So all that to say, the work that I started really amplified and shed a beautiful light on South Dallas because it's only 6 minutes from downtown, the central business, freeway access, easy freeway access. And it is an area where we can now kind of continue to say, hey, look, this area is turning. More Black people, are buying in this area, but I can't tell you how long that's gonna take, especially with them about to invest another $75 million into Fair Park. We need to buy more, we need to build more, we need to develop more, and bring more people back who were originally from this neighborhood, who may have moved out. It needs to be our neighborhood. I think of South Dallas and I think about it being able to be, similar to Prince George's County, a wealthy Black, county or area. So, I can only hope and dream, but
Definitely. Well, I think you definitely are doing your part to help become that. Has there, in the last like 7, 8 years or so since you've been working in that area, has it changed a lot? Has it developed a lot? Are there a lot of things coming?
Yeah, absolutely. So what I tell people is you look for these three infrastructure things: your social infrastructure, which is your schools, your parks, your police departments, that type of stuff. You look at your physical infrastructure, which is your roads, sidewalks, biking lanes, right? And then you look at any major development or major play with areas around it. If those things are coming up, you want to jump in the area. So we have all those boxes checked. So we got social infrastructure, new police departments, new fire departments, brand new parks, money being spent on parks. Then we got new roads, new sidewalks, biking lanes. I chair a task force for this area for a brand new development plan for the entire area. So there's that.
Wow.
And then there is new schools left and right. New schools, Billy Day, H.S. Thompson. Those are schools that have gotten, that are pretty much brand new. So we check those three boxes and stuff has been blowing up since then.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Talk to us about starting your own brokerage. Something I want to talk about. I mean, a lot of folks, they're agents and they're kind of doing their thing and that's the route they go. What makes you want to start your own brokerage?
So I'll tell you this, true story. I really didn't want to start my own brokerage. I was working for a mentor of mine, and most of what he did was multifamily investment advisory and sales, that type of stuff. And it was great. Don't get me wrong, I learned a lot from him. A lot of the understanding I have now, I learned from him. And then, in Texas, at that time, you had to be licensed for 2 years uninterrupted in order to be become a broker and sit for the brokerage exam. So I did that, sat for the brokerage exam, passed it with flying colors. And I went to him. I was like, hey, look, got my broker license now. I put this little thing together for you, man. I would love to spearhead your residential side. I'd love to start that. And he was like, no, I have no interest in that. I'm like, look, hear me out. You wouldn't have to do anything. If we recruited this many agents, we'll have this. He said, no, I don't want to. If you want to do that, you go off on your own and do that. I said, okay. and that's what happened. And again, the goal for my brokerage has and will always be to help people use real estate as that vehicle to do so. And we wanted to take an innovative approach to that, using technology, using, kind of education, using the book and the worksheets and all that stuff. And, one of the things that I did a lot of as a newer agent and, as I got a little bit more experience under my belt, I did a lot of panels and I did a lot of, stuff where I spoke about these things. And I got tired of that. And I said, listen, we need to move from panels to workshops. Like when folks are coming to these home buyer things, they need to be able to walk out feeling like they can do this by the work that they've done through our website, through our workshops. And so we start putting together these workshops, these brunches where we would have lenders there, credit people there. We'd even bring in agents who had listings like, yo, listen, you got an opportunity. So our lenders will run credit. Okay, listen, this is what you need. Go to this next table. Credit specialist is right here. All right, this is what we're going to do. Some people, hey, look, no, I didn't even think I could buy a house. All right, cool. Well, you can. Holler at those people over there. Here's your pre-approval. Or the people who need a little bit of work. Hey, look, this is the timeline it's going to take you to purchase. If you do this, this, and this. So if you really want to purchase, people would leave our workshops feeling empowered. It wasn't just sitting there talking. It was us, hey, look, we're about to do some work. Get up on your feet, grab one of them tablets, go holler at this lender, this one or this one, and let's get it going. At the end of the day, man, like I said, we just wanted to make certain that we got people in homes that they can afford, they can be comfortable with, and they can make some things shake.
Love it. As you were talking, I was thinking about that class you had, the real estate class, freshman year. Mm-hmm. And it seems like that was a turning point for you. And it really sparked something within you where it was like, all right, he must be onto something. Mm-hmm. This real estate thing is something that, I want to get into.
Yeah.
And look where we are today.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you know what? I'll tell you this. That was the start of the point turning. The real turning point in that class, this guy was like, he was spacey. But the turning point was when he brought his tax returns to class. Mm. And still young and naive, he's showing us everything. And it's a multi-million-dollar AGI. You know what I mean? Right. I'm like, professors make that kind of money? Right? And so then he goes through some of his schedules and he's showing us how he's making up that. And being a professor, he was just doing that, probably to get insurance. I don't know. It wasn't. It was a drop in the bucket in comparison to where his real estate stuff was coming from. His real estate income was coming from. Young and naive, he flips to the final page, and it had an accounting firm that I always wanted to work with. One of the big four. In order to get audited and your tax preparation done by four, you got to be making some really good money. And it was PricewaterhouseCoopers, and I was a little confused because I only thought they audited large companies. And he said, y'all got 3 questions about this return. Any 3 questions. And my naive self one of the questions that I asked one, I blew one of the class's questions with this dumb question. I said, hey, so is PricewaterhouseCoopers your tax preparer? He looked at me, he said, I just showed you my full tax return for this year. The full thing. And that dumb question is what you want to know? He looked at me crazy. He said, man, it's so much more to just wanting to work for these people. I was like, yeah, because I bet they don't make this kind of money, do they, huh? If they're working for you, yeah, okay. So that was a turning point. One, seeing how much my professor was making in his real estate, and then him calling me out like, yo, that's stupid. You so about PricewaterhouseCoopers that you missing it. You're missing it. And so that was a turning point of the whole thing, man. It really opened my eyes, and I was like, yo, you know what? Maybe I do need to figure out how to buy this house.
Love it. Love it. Scottie, man, what does the future look like for you? Of course, I know Lake Noire, it'll be done, and we'll be able to talk about that and see that. What are some other things you want to get done in the future?
Man, that's a great question. So I told my kids I have a 2 to 3 year run because I work really hard. They're getting older, so I got 2 to 3 year run. So I have about 200 units in my pipeline.
Wow,
including Lake Noire. And so I told them, I said, if you give me 2 years, I'm gonna be working really hard. Some of the stuff I might miss. I won't miss any of the really important things, but, before I go to everything, I might miss some of that stuff. But if you give me these 2 to 3 years, I'm going to get all these properties up, running, cash flowing. I'll be able to do whatever it is you want to do whenever you want to do it. And so right now, what that future looks like is putting all of these units I have in my pipeline online, cash flowing, so that real freedom is created. We talk about freedom in real estate and the reason why we do this. And the reality is most people get into this and they get a couple units and then they end up self-managing it. And you're doing this because you want to create freedom, and, you getting these random calls, after work because the toilet is clogged up, even when you do have a freaking property manager. But what I want to do is really, really create that freedom. Like if I don't want to, I don't want to. And that's where I'm going with this whole thing. And so I've nailed down what my number is. I went and found the dirt to make these units come to life. And now it's about executing the plan now.
Love it. Hey, we'll have to have you back on and tell that story. That's awesome. Awesome.
Hey, man.
Definitely. Well, Scottie, appreciate you coming on the show. Is anything you want to share with the listeners? Also, where can they find you and keep up with what you have going on and all the progress on Lake Noire?
Yeah, man. Y'all can find me on Instagram. That's where I mostly am, at Scottie L. Smith. That's Scottie with an I-E, L. Smith. Facebook too, Scottie Smith II. Or you can find me at scottiesmith.co. scottiesmith.co.
Love it. And thank you to everyone for listening to the Black Real Estate Dialogue podcast. If you haven't already, definitely make sure to subscribe, leave us a rating, leave us a review. It helps out a whole lot. I look forward to hearing from you all soon.
Hi, everyone. Sam here from the Black Real Estate Dialogue. Make sure to hit that notification bell and that subscribe button, and to visit us at blackrealestatedialogue.com.